64 was just a normal birthday, but then along came Paul McCartney and the world's most famous song about growing old was born.
Now the rocker himself is 64, a cause for celebration amongst Beatles fans across the world.
Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
You see, they all love that song. No matter what happens, everyone loves
It is a
When I'm
great tune.
64.
It is a great tune, like so many of his tunes.
Of course, it's a difficult time, though, to turn 64 for Paul McCartney, because, of course, for many, many years, he's probably assumed this would be the magical pinnacle of his life when he turned 64. And, of course, his whole life has somewhat gone upside down in the last few weeks, really, with the marriage breakdown of his wife. Those you saw a moment ago were a couple of fans in Paris. We can now go live to Kensal Rise in North London, where members of the British Beatles fan club are celebrating Sir Paul's 64th birthday. And Richard Porter is hosting this barbecue. Richard, I hope you can hear me. I can see you've got an awful lot of balloons there, and anyone who's a fan has come down to join you.
Yeah, guess how many balloons we've got? 64.
So what are you going to do with those balloons?
We're just about to release them as a celebration of Paul's birthday. So if anyone sees a balloon, we've got our website details on here, so if you'd like to get in touch with us, it'd be great to hear how far the balloons go.
Well, let's just watch the magical event then, Richard.
Right, okay, are we ready, folks?
Let's have the song.
Yeah, let's have the song.
Put it on play, just play.
Press the play. Right, are we ready? 3, 2, 1, go!
Right, go.
So, Richard, what happens to these balloons? They all get sent back to you, I presume. People can go onto your website.
Well, the helium balloons.
Richard, we were just mentioning there the fact that this is such a symbolic birthday for Paul McCartney, but a very difficult time for him in his personal life.
I'm sorry?
Just saying what a difficult time Sir Paul was having on such an important day.
Yes, he's had a few problems recently, but hopefully he's having a nice day. I believe they're having a barbecue themselves down in Sussex with the family. And we believe also that his daughters and his grandchildren recorded a version of When I'm 64 Abbey Road Studios last Monday as a tribute.
Well, have a lovely, lovely afternoon. Just out of interest, is your barbecue still going on? Can anyone come along?
Well, we haven't really started the actual barbecue yet, so if anyone's around, then yes, they can come along, yes.
Richard, and your wife Irina, I think, Porter, and all your friends who are down there, have a lovely evening.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And just to let you know, a little later on the programme, we're going to be speaking to Sophie Harris, music journalist from Mojo and Time Out. She's going to be talking to us about Paul McCartney's 64th birthday.
We will be speaking more of that later, I'm sure. Once upon a time, 64 was just another birthday, but then along came Paul McCartney, and the world's most famous song about growing old was born.
Yes, now the rocker himself is 64, a cause for celebration amongst Beatles.
Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Well, Let's speak to Sophie Harris, a music journalist for Mojo and Time Out. She's in our central London studios. Sophie, thank you for joining us. Will you still need me? Will you still feed me? And it's a huge irony, isn't it, when you think about the words to that song about his recent marriage breakdown. It's terrible, isn't it, after such a long, prolific career, that at a time like this, such a significant birthday, we're really actually just thinking how sad for Sir Paul.
Yeah, it's a terribly sad time for him, I think, but I guess also do bear in mind he's got a whole year of being 64 to do lots of fabulous, happy things as well, but it kind of must be extremely painful for him to have the focus of the world's attention on him at such a difficult time now.
And sources close to him are saying that he really does fear that the whole talk about his marriage breakdown is actually going to overshadow his legacy as this great pop legend.
I don't think it'll overshadow his legacy at all. In fact, I think, if anything, it's kind of worked to Sir Paul's advantage, because, you know, British people kind of love a panto, really, and Heather Mills has been cast as arch-villain, you know, and the British public are really kind of welcoming Paul back with open arms. You know, I think there was always a sense with Heather that she wasn't good enough for our Paul, and now they're kind of delighted to have him back, for better or for worse.
And in terms of record sales and royalties, how important is it that an ageing pop star retains his credibility into older age? I mean, I don't know if he's lost that to a certain extent, or whether he will just always be remembered for being a great musician. I
don't think Paul's lost his credibility at all, actually, because if you look at his performance at Live 8 recently, that was really well received. And Glastonbury, a couple of years ago, I saw Paul perform, and, you know, the crowd was huge, and people were loving all of it. Even, you know, the Wings stuff, which was thought of as a bit poppy and less credible somehow, just all of it went down really well. And I think he's now safely, you know, ensconced. He's so much part of British culture, really, that he almost can do no wrong.
And that's almost come out, hasn't it, in the last few weeks, possibly wrongly, that people have vilified his perhaps soon-to-be ex-wife, because he himself is such a likeable character.
I think he is very likeable, and I think the British public were very suspicious of Heather Mills because she's kind of this young, slightly, you know, unknown person, new on the scene. And I think as well because the British public had so adored Linda, you know, she was one of the few Beatle wives that the British public really took to their heart because she was a very safe figure. But I think, yeah, as I say, I think that people will always be happy for Paul.
Interesting you use the word safe, actually, because a lot of the Beatles' music itself is safe. And yet, do you think it will go down in history as some of the best music the world has ever seen in terms of pop?
The Beatles' music? Oh, I think absolutely. And I mean, for me, I don't think the Beatles' music is safe at all. I mean, if you consider some of their psychedelic experiments and the things that they did with orchestrations within their music, that was, you know, massively ambitious. I guess with the song itself, When I'm 64, though, there is this kind of quite traditional arrangement, and, you know, and the lyrics are all alluding to this kind of domestic bliss and scrimping and saving for holidays, obviously, which Paul is not having to do now.
It is just one of those ironies, isn't it? And yet, I suppose, Sophie, when you look back at the long careers of so many of these pop legends, marital breakdowns are just part of it. And in the longer scheme of things, it's forgotten at the end. 20 years from now, we will not be talking about his marriage breakdown that lasted just a few years to Heather Mills McCartney, will we?
No, I think, you know, even a year from now, people won't be talking about Paul's marriage breakdown. I think they'll probably just be going, oh, what's Sir Paul up to these days? But possibly releasing new records that don't go down that well, but, you know, there's nothing really that he can do to sully his record thus far because it's just so fantastic.
Sophie Harris, music journalist for Mojo and Time Out, thank you for joining us.